He will catch up. All right, we are now on the air. But anyway, as I was saying, I appreciate your pushback as far as like, what are we going to do? What's the agenda? What's the plan for the meeting? And I think that just getting face to face, we've found over the last, I don't know how long it's been, almost a year, maybe.
Has it been that long?
I don't know. It's been a while. Not a year, but at least 6 months.
Yeah, probably
Just
6 months.
getting face to face ends up putting items on our to-do lists. One of them. James and Eric, I don't think I've added you to Wunderlist. Are you familiar with Wunderlist? It's a
Not at all.
to-do list application that we all kind of settled on as one between the four of us that is helpful. It's basically a single view. They have a great iPhone app or a mobile app as well, but it's an application you get, and it's a single view of what all our different tasks are.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of hold each other accountable to say, hey, I added a task for you. Are you going to get that done or not? That kind of thing. And meeting face-to-face has helped us actually get stuff done. So I'm going to add that as a to-do item for me, just because someone's got to do it, to add you guys to the Wunderlist. So the way this works as far as the minutes go, we have this document that's open. All of you have permission to edit it, and I've been the acting secretary, so I guess for this meeting I'll try to do that as well. I try to just keep track of the minutes of what we've decided, things we've just decided, update the agenda as we figure it out, and then go from there. So, but I think the main point is, and John's been saying this over and over again, we need to have the board, like we need to define this so that we actually can say, hey, you have the authority to go do this, make it happen. But I really appreciate Eric's pushback in that it's really difficult for James and Eric to jump into this thing after we've been meeting every week for months and have any clarity at all. So that's completely understandable. So we need to figure that out. If the next major thing we need to do is elect board members, we need to make sure that James and Eric have our board seats, I guess, fill board seats. We need to make sure you guys have everything you need to make those decisions, from my perspective. And so if that means we hold off on filling those seats for another week or two, whatever that means, I'm okay with that, as long as we can move that forward.
I don't know if filling the seats is. I went back and looked at the bylaws, and looking at the bylaws, they're not. I think I'm talking about a different thing than just the broad picture of what's a role and what's that role look like. I think I'm really more concerned with what's the marketing strategy going to be? What's our actual detailed message to our members who join the Bitcoin Alliance? What are they getting out of it? How do we monetize it further? What's the vision for the thing long term? Not necessarily, you have your executive director and this person's in charge of the meeting, or your secretary keeps track of notes and your treasurer keeps track of money. I think those are well understood. I'm talking about the bigger picture. What's the actual vision, where we're going to go, and what are the details, and then how do we start piecing those pieces out to the members? Because I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that this board is a working board, not just a board of people who stamp stuff. If that assumption's wrong, then...
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because I think we've spent the last few months going back, and I wish Sean was here. He's got a lot more, I think, corporate experience than most of us, Sean King, and he's clarified that point numerous times. There's times we've gotten into the weeds, and we've had to pull back and say, no, that's for an action team. So in essence, yes, this is a rubber stamp board, and yes, all of us are going to have to be action team members.
Right.
Okay. Now, Sean is not in. Now, again, most likely, Eric, you don't have to. I mean, maybe you didn't sign up for that, but it sounds like you're talking about all the things that I would say, Eric, man, you should lead the action team for the promotion of this. So we put together. Sean Roy did a great job of putting together basically like our template documents for what an action team expectations are and their communication with the board, the approval process they go through, all that kind of stuff, funding and how that's happened, how we resource them as appropriately. So we've done a lot of legwork of the foundational structure of how this organization is going to operate, and it's going to be primarily based out of the volunteers and action teams. It's not going to be a top-down heavy organization. It's going to be individual action teams empowered to do amazing things that support the vision. The only thing that we really are focusing on, and John mentioned it in the channel recently, is that vision statement. That's what we're about. To support blockchain technologies for a free and equitable society. That's it. Those missions, those teams, action teams, and will fit into that mission And we will then approve, yeah, go do that, yeah, go do that, go do that, make that happen. That said, we don't have a gigantic volunteer base at this point, so I think all of us want to see this thing actually happen, so we're all on different levels going to be involved in the different action teams. And we've organized those action teams relatively well as far as their descriptions and what we expect each one to do. So you mentioned, I think, Eric, probably 1 or 2 different action teams and just the brief things you were discussing. There is someone that's going to handle PR, that's going to be worried about marketing and promotions. There's, and the website probably falls underneath that. And there's other aspects of training and education, technical aspects of. So there's a lot of things that we have spent a good amount of time and we have documents for. But because you guys don't yet have email accounts with the TennesseeBitcoin.org, you don't see the whole repository of all the documents we've created up to this point. So I think there was an action team, Sean, Roy, last meeting to get them email addresses. So I think that hasn't happened yet. We've got to make sure that happens.
Yeah, that's correct. It hasn't happened yet, and that's because I've just been entirely too busy here. But yeah. I will. If I have to kill somebody, I'll get some time put aside tonight to get something set up.
Hopefully, you're not killing anyone. That would be good.
But yeah, if I could I comment on that real quick, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to follow up and kind of what Luke said, and then kind of clarify that a little bit more. In response to what you were saying, Eric, as far as the difference between whether a working board or what you refer to as a rubber stamp board. I mean, our primary goal as the board is to make sure that everything we do comes back to the vision. So our job is to really be the stewards of that vision statement, to promote blockchain technologies for a free and equitable society. And then whenever anyone within the organization wants to do something in the name of the organization, it's our job to say, okay, does that come back to the vision statement? If it does, then we support it. If not, then we reevaluate it. So our job is really to be stewards of that and to direct things from there. And rather than have an organization made up of committees, we decided a while back to use the term action team and build a number of different teams that's really where we want the majority of the activity to go on, where we all, at this point, we all serve technically on various different action teams. We also want members of the organization who aren't on the board to be involved in those action teams and help get things done. So the action teams we have right now, just as a brief overview, we have one that's focused on community and membership. We have press and media, education, web and design, legal and policy, and then technology development. So in those 6 action teams, there's a brief description of each one on our website. And there's definitely more. We definitely want more clarity, and we want to break down each one of those individually. But having my focus on really making sure we get those officers elected first is really more than anything. It's housekeeping. It's that technically, according to the bylaws, we can't do anything without officers. So I'm right there with you. I want to see more activity done, and I want that to happen in the action teams. But it's difficult for us to really inspire that action until we have some structure in place.
We've already agreed that the action teams have a process to go through in interacting with the board and the different like executive director or the treasurer or whatever. Like we've worked that all out. We just need these positions for them to actually be able to do that. So we can't say, hey, here's the training manual to be an action team leader and to recruit your action team members, and here's what you're supposed to do if that's not in place. So.
Well, that being said, then for these board meetings, shouldn't we be having reports of where the action teams are, what they've done, how far along they are in each one of these board meetings, and as part of our agenda? And I would assume
absolutely.
Our treasury,
they don't exist yet.
Tell us about the
they don't exist.
Every board meeting, we actually have a little more structure to it.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, Eric, definitely.
They don't exist yet. So.
Well, that's already, all that is laid out in the documents that Sean put together for the leaders of the action teams, is the communication back to the board as well as the communication as to what's allowed. Basically, it's if the action teams are working on something that may be info sensitive or time sensitive, that's already written in, that goes to the board, and that doesn't go out to the general public. So all the reporting and stuff is already written in to the procedures of that, which I forget exactly where that is. I've read through it a couple times, that info for the reporting and back and forth and all that communication when it comes to those action teams. Well,
obviously my questions are, I'm asking questions in the dark, and some of the stuff's there. That's great. If I I just want to be. I guess I need to see some of that stuff so I don't act so stupid and asking stupid questions.
Yeah, no, and I'm really sorry we didn't get you those email accounts. And again, that's why these face-to-face meetings are important sometimes. Just to say, oh, hey, did that happen? And have someone say, no, but I'll get it done tonight. Like, if we didn't have this meeting today, that probably wouldn't happen because that could have, and that happens all the time. I'm not trying to pick on Sean Roy at all. We're all super busy, totally understandable. And so it's just by forcing and this is what we did to get to where we are, a weekly meeting of, oh my gosh, yeah, I have that meeting in an hour. I better get some stuff done so I can say, yeah, I got my to-do list done. So just that accountability, we're such an early stage as far as an organization that's unfortunately where we're at. It's just saying, hey, we have to get stuff done. And so let's meet to say, are we getting stuff done? That kind of thing. But I really appreciate what you're saying because I do think that's where we want to go. So that being said, do we need to hold off on the one agenda item we have, which is to get those board positions set up? Or as John was saying, is it just administrative? Because I don't care, personally, as far as who fills the seats. It's like, I mean, we have it in our bylaws that if we have to move someone out of a seat because they're not doing the job, we can do that too. So I don't really care, as long as we move forward. Thoughts on that? I mean, that's really, I guess, a question directed to James and Eric, I guess, because you guys have to see what's required to make a decision.
I mean, I definitely don't feel like at this point that I am fit to do any of the larger board members of treasurer or secretary or executive director or legal counsel. I mean, I think the best that I could do for the first portion of the term would be to just be a regular board member and look at action teams or participate in those action teams as necessary or give guidance where I can or use my network of people to help give support to the organization. But I don't think I can. I don't think that I'm a qualified person for any of the roles given my current knowledge of where this organization is.
And I mean, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
I'm not. I'm pretty much in a similar boat. If one of you are really looking to or really needing to hand off your position, I'm okay with that. But I need a time of mentoring to see what you're doing, to see how you're doing it. And I'll tell you, I'm not interested in the secretary position. I can't spell worth hardly anything. So yeah, you can ask Sean Roy about that. But yeah. So that definitely would not be one I'd be interested in. I'm of the opinion Sean Roy's doing a great job. I don't qualify for the position of the general counsel. And John Meese does some amazing work that I couldn't touch what he does and the way he does it. Couldn't even come close. So.
All right. I mean, if that's the case, then I'm going to propose that we just kind of keep the status quo for now. Eric, at some point, I could see you doing a secretary role at a much better, more effective way than I'm doing it, and potentially some other roles as well. So or treasurer, yeah. I mean, again, depending on how that works out. So I would say I'm fine with saying these are the roles now, and then if we officially need to put in the minutes, oh, so and so stepped down at this board position and put up somebody else like.
Who's handling the treasurer role now?
Sean Roy is treasuring, and so Sean, actually, I know you said you're swamp busy. We're still waiting for some spreadsheets that were going to be out previously discussed.
Yeah. And I would say Sean Roy is actually stretched. I mean, we're all stretched pretty thin, but specifically as far as responsibilities within the organization goes, I think Sean Roy may be stretched maybe a little bit too much because although it's not a technical position, he does all of our like website maintenance and like Google Apps account maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So he volunteered to take the role of treasurer when there was only 4 of us. But that might be something that, I mean, Sean Roy has a lot on his plate. That might be something that Sean, if you want to speak to this, that treasurer is definitely a role that either of the 2 new board members could take because it doesn't require a mass amount of prior knowledge, as long as you know how to crunch numbers. So, I mean, that's just a thought. I don't know, Sean Roy, do you have thoughts on that? Do you like where you're at? I know you're driving. Well, if you can comment, that'd be great. But otherwise, Well, and I've enjoyed my position, my time as executive director, but it is a lot of responsibility. And I'm happy to take that again. But I would also say that I think, Luke, I think you'd be a fantastic executive director, and you were the one who really got this all started. So.
Well, to be clear, I got a meetup in Nashville started. I blame all you for this stuff.
You blame me.
I blame you and Sean for this whole thing. Oh gosh. But
you were the.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I'm serious. I think you would. So whether that's now or later, at some point, I would love to see you as executive director and see how you shape things.
If I sell my company and have millions of dollars and have time to spare, it would be wonderful to travel the country, going to Bitcoin conferences, and be.
Traveling Tennessee, just to be clear.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
That would be great. But I'm not there now. I don't have enough time, unfortunately. So.
Okay.
A lot of especially not-for-profit boards usually move people through various board roles in a sort of a succession planning. So they'll have people come on board as the secretary, then make their way through treasurer, then into an executive director, then to an ex officio type role, and you kind of like a line of who's going to be taking on what role next, and that expectation is kind of laid out there. I didn't see that in the bylaws when I just reviewed them a second ago, but maybe something to consider as people move around, because you can't stay in a role forever. You get bored with it, you get stale, and new ideas are always helpful.
Yeah. In our bylaws, I mean, so there are terms for our board positions, and I mean, in that we're on the board for 2 years unless somebody either resigns or is forcefully resigned. As far as those officer positions, I don't believe there's a term there. So, each officer shall hold office until he or she resigns or is moved or replaced. So really, this is just something that we're going to have to work through as a board, and that when we feel like it's time for someone else to take a given spot, then we should evaluate that for sure.
So basically, the current board positions stay in effect until we choose to change them.
And if we want to vote on that, we need to vote on that, I think.
Right. No, I mean, as far as right now, the interim board ceased to exist, and this is actually our first official meeting of the full board of directors since the interim board was dissolved. So that means that right now, even though we all had positions on, the four of us had positions on the interim board, we still have to be voted into positions on the new board.
All right, so let's go ahead and hold that vote to just basically re-elect the previous the interim board to the current board positions, and then say in a week or so or month or whatever, if we decide to change that, or one of us fill in me or Eric fill in like the treasury role or one of the other roles, then we can do that at our own discretion. That way it takes care of what we need to do.
Well, I'd love to hear if Sean Roy can speak. I'd love to hear his comments on the treasurer thing, because if that's something that he wants to pass on, then now would probably be the best time while we're on the topic.
Why just the treasury position?
Well, what I mean is,
we're all going.
No, here's the thing. I mean, each one of the jobs that we've been doing, I think, has been kind of tailored to our experiences and our affiliation with the network. So, for instance, Sean King is a lawyer, so it makes sense that he is on the, that he's the legal and policy.
The general counsel,
Yeah. So, I mean, and John, you've been doing a great job as executive director, because that's something that your capacity is for that.
Thank you.
I've been handling the finances because I've fronted a lot of the money that's gotten us going, so it only made sense. Me personally, I don't have like oh hey, I want to be treasurer, but I'm just saying that we've been filling the positions that made the most sense for each individual, for our the affiliations that we've had with the network so far, and I think it made sense, and I think that going forward, unless there is somebody that brings something to the table that is a better fit, then we should probably just move forward with the positions that we have.
Okay. John, I
the
think we lost
executive
you.
director.
Wait, okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. I was just saying that I think that we should probably move forward with the current positions the current officer positions that we have, unless somebody wants to step into or expresses an interest in stepping into one of those roles. And then if that's the case, then we deal with that on a role-by-role basis. Just to revote all the officer positions again, or to shuffle them up just for the sake of shuffling them up, I think can be counterproductive to our overall mission.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think any of us are arguing shuffling them up for the sake of shuffling them up. But Sean, I mean, being very candid, I feel that if the responsibilities of treasurer were in someone else's hands, then that would allow you to focus more of your efforts on either the website or other technical projects within the organization, which I think that's your true maximum added value. That's your best contribution to this organization. But I think right now you're struggling
John?
to keep up
John,
with. Yeah.
John, I didn't hear anything you said because I cut completely out.
Okay. Gotcha.
All I heard was to be perfectly candid.
And then nothing. To be perfectly candid. No.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, all I was saying, Sean, is that
I
think your maximum added value, your greatest contribution to this organization is in your skills in relation to the technical aspects of both our website, our back-end systems, and other projects within the organization. And I think that if we can free the treasurer, you up from the responsibilities of the treasurer, and delegate that to someone else on the team, I think that will allow you to make a greater contribution.
I'm totally okay with that.
Okay.
I'm perfectly okay with that. If there's somebody else that wants to step in and do that job, I'm all for it.
Okay. Either
I was only doing it out of necessity.
Right. Yes. I understand, and we do really appreciate that. Just to be clear, I'm not saying you've done a terrible job or anything. I just know that I think you could do more for the organization if you were allowed to focus on the technical side.
Oh, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree.
Good. Either Eric or James, are either of you interested in filling the role of treasurer on the board?
I'm definitely qualified to be a treasurer of any board.
Yeah, you have a lot of finance experience.
I nominate Eric.
Yes.
Who wants the second?
I'll second that nomination.
Yeah, I also agree. And so I think all in favor of voting Eric as treasurer on the current board of directors, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Okay, I think the ayes have it.
right.
Oh, any opposed, say nay. Okay, I think we're good. All right, great. So Eric, thank you for filling that role. I think that'll be much better for the organization because that'll allow Sean to focus on what he can do best, and that'll also give you a place to serve as an officer, Eric. And we can talk more about the specifics of our current structure in regards to treasurer's responsibilities. It might be good if you and Sean actually touch bases so that he can give you a status update as far as where we're at treasurer-wise.
Yeah, and be aware that role within this organization does require some technical expertise as far as the Bitcoin protocol. We use multi-signature wallets and some other different things. As an organization, in our bylaws, we are really technically only supposed to interact with Bitcoin as part of promoting Bitcoin. We eat our own dog food, we use Bitcoin. So that being said, it does create some interesting financial challenges, especially when we have to pay for things in US dollars. So
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I think Sean, Roy, if you and Eric could get a meeting together, so kind of a passing of the guard as far as private keys, logins, passwords, that kind of stuff to make sure we're on the right page, that would be fantastic. And then too, just to finish out that spreadsheet, I think we had talked about and we had mentioned publicly publishing a first quarter, description of here's everything we spent money on. There were some technical things with our first meetup that we were going to talk to. I think, John, you were going to talk to them about a certain $500 bill that was in question and some other stuff like that.
I never took care of that. My apologies.
Yeah, so I think it would be good for us to go through the Wunderlist to-do items and also potentially maybe the last few meeting notes and just make sure that we're on the right page to get stuff done.
Yeah, for sure. Just real quick, though, can we have I think we just need to have a formal vote on the other board positions as well.
Okay.
Can we so I can't nominate myself, but I do officially.
I nominate John as the executive board director. He's going to second that.
I think James already put together kind of a nomination out there, just needs to be seconded and ratified
Sure.
for the existing positions.
And I think it kind of was, but I'll just officially say, yeah, I vote for the secretary position, the legal counsel position, and the executive director to remain as they were with the interim board.
Okay, I as well. I vote for the same.
I vote for the same.
Okay.
That's the majority. We're good.
That's the majority. Okay, good. And just to be clear and on record, we do have a quorum, even though that Sean isn't present, so we can vote on such things. Great. Okay, so we're back to it. So, thank you for electing me once again as to serve as executive director, and insert eloquent speech or something here. All right, back to business. Yes, Wunderlist. Secretary Luke.
Yep,
Would you like
I got
to
that
go
on
over
there.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it here as an action point already. James and Eric, I will email you so a description of Wunderlist, how it works, and how we've been using it, and we can go from there.
I'm on it right now. Do I need to create an account? Is that what I need to do? And then you'll add me to a list, or is that how that works?
Yes. Yep. Actually, yeah. If you want, just let me know what email address you want to be added to. If there's one that you prefer to be used for that, and I will add you to our Wunderlist.
All right.
Yeah, we have a group here.
Yeah. I guess we'll go ahead and delete the BitCongress voting platform task.
Yeah. Actually, let me just do this right now. James, which email do you prefer? Same one that you've got on
JamesBrown@gmail.com. That's the one I've got to set aside for all my Bitcoin stuff. So.
And you want EasyO'Reilly@gmail?
Yeah, use that one. I'm logging to it now.
So Bitcoin James and Easy O'Reilly, those are the two?
Yep.
I will add you both now.
Great. So, yeah, and you'll see in there you can actually assign tasks to specific people, or tasks can be assigned to you. You can comment on specific tasks, add reminders, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And I've been trying after each meeting, and I see I have two on here I have not looked at, so I apologize for that. These are, again, a reason why just getting face-to-face is a good reminder. Oh, I have responsibilities that I need to be focusing on.
Yes.
So I will go through those as well. And so, yeah, this is kind of the main place where we do our kind of what has to happen as far as the board goes. It's in this Wunderlist app. And then feel free to add stuff for action teams as well as we go forward. But that's kind of what we've been using so far. And then, of course, the email group. If Sean can get you guys added to that, you can look through the documents that we have. And that would probably be a good idea, John. Maybe it would be a good idea for you to organize those a bit. So kind of just follow up with Sean Roy to make sure that those email addresses get added. And then once they get added, maybe a walkthrough of the documents would be a good idea to say, okay, this is the main document, obviously the bylaws. This is the action team template. These are things that still need to be developed. That would probably be a good thing for you to do.
Yeah, I can put together. I'll add to Wunderlist. I'll put together a quick screencast tutorial of our Google Drive folders, and then send that to. I guess I'll send that to the whole board, but especially Eric and James.
That'd be good.
Cool. Anything else on the list that we need to talk to you today?
I'd like to know, because I think it'd be really good to kind of fill out our action team for the meetings, specifically the meetups. Because I think if we could hand that off to more of a volunteer, non-board position, I think it would do two things. I think it'd bring more people in because they're going to have a vested interest because they're actually working it and putting it together. And I think it'd free the board up a little bit more, so we're more so just overseeing and checking in with those people. Hey, have we got this? Have we got the food lined up? Instead of us actually being the people to make sure all that happens.
Yeah, and I would say, right now we do kind of have a community and membership action team, but unfortunately, so I think basically the more that can be taken off my plate in regards to that, the more I can do as executive director and coordinating the action teams. Because right now I'm the action team leader for community and membership, which often means that, and this is to my own fault because of how busy I keep my schedule, but this often means that I'm planning meetings at the last minute without even having contact with the volunteers, just because it's so last minute. So I agree. It would be better if we had an active community membership team that had an action team leader who could take initiative on planning meetings. And we've also talked about coordinating the meetings at Nashville as well as the 2 other Bitcoin meetups in the state, and having them all serve in the same community membership action team and share ideas back and forth.
And we've even talked about potentially, live broadcasting our meetings to other locations within Tennessee, and so these are all things that somebody's got to take the lead on and run with. James, I would love for you to be more involved. I think kind of the only main thing that we have going on right now is just coordinating with Emma as far as our meeting space and making sure that we have the time slots available. That's kind of the primary thing, because everything else flows from that. Who's going to speak, when are they going to speak, that kind of stuff. I think it was clear from this past week's meeting that we need to get consistent on a regular schedule too, so people just know. And we got this great feedback from what's going on in Bali and stuff. It's just like they meet every week, and it's like they just know no matter what, people are going to be there at this time on this day, and they're going to meet. So even if we're once a month, it's consistent. And I think it was that way for a while. We've just fallen off of that.
We used to do the 3rd Tuesday of the month, and then we talked about moving to Mondays, and we didn't settle on a specific Monday. Yeah. So, but that's something that, and I'm happy to still communicate with Emma. Like, if someone else can handle getting a speaker, and if we can figure out a time or a specific, like Monday of the month or Tuesday that works for everybody, then I'm happy to communicate with Emma and get that on the calendar, because I already have an ongoing relationship with them, and that'd be very easy to do.
And we can all agree that James White is freaking amazing at food. So as long as we can make sure he gets compensated as well. I still need to send him some money from this week, but he puts a ton of effort into that, and it's always really good.
Yeah.
What about Jake Robinson? I know he'd expressed some interest, possibly as a board position a while back.
Absolutely. But, I mean, anyone that can help, I think we can use it. So.
I think if we reach out to Jake, I think he would be probably more than happy to kind of step up and help out with some of these meetups.
All right, James, I'm going to create a to-do item for you to do that. How about that?
Yes. James, and James, would you be interested, James, in taking a more active role in the community and membership team as far as planning events?
To some extent, yes.
Okay.
Do we have a membership list of the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance lying around anywhere?
Yeah. So we kind of have, at this point, unfortunately, we have 2 different lists. We have one of people that actually joined in our site, but then before we had membership options on the site, we had a bunch of people who joined our email list. So we have a couple hundred people on the email list, and then probably only a dozen or so on the site. And there's some overlap, but not everybody.
And we did it. Did we do a campaign, or is that still another to-do list item? There was a plan to do an ongoing email campaign to get those people onto the site.
Yeah, we never ended up doing that. I think I sent out one email, but that was all.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to do that, but we also need like a resource list, like contact info, the Emma people, because God forbid if anything happened to John. What would we do? I mean,
we didn't have the Wi-Fi password as an example, and I was like, shoot, I don't know, because I think the person I used to be in contact with.
Yeah, so I mean, if we can put together like, if we can do like a Google document or some folder or something.
That's a good idea. Add
manages basically all of our important contact info, including each other's phone numbers and emails.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Can you add a?
Doing it now. Yep.
Okay. And and I have Priya's, and it's actually not just her email address. She's the Emma contact, but she also gave me her cell phone once, and I'm glad I kept that, because that night that the other group showed up at the same time, when they ended up having 2 meetups conflicting, thank goodness I had her cell phone number and we could work it out. Because the lady at first told me, she was like, Priya doesn't have a cell phone. There's no way you can reach her at home. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to call this number anyways.
Yeah. John, the other to-do item we set up was you were going to do a screencast of our...
Yeah, and I already added that one to Wunderlist, but you can put that on the...
Yeah, I just want to put it in the notes here as well.
Yes.
All right. All right, well, since there wasn't anything else on the agenda, I think the only other thing really... Eric, you mentioned needing a 10-word description of the organization. I really do think that's a great idea. My hope is that'll be done within an action team, like the marketing PR. Like I think they're going to be more qualified to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I think we probably need to figure out what our meeting schedule is going to be. That kind of seems to be the most practical next thing to figure out. How often are we going to get on each other's case to get stuff done? We've got Slack, which is great, and we can remind each other throughout the day or the week to get stuff done there too. But I do think there's something special about, these are real human beings. I'm looking them in the face. I've made a commitment with my eyes, and I'm going to get something done. I know for me it's very helpful.
I would like to propose that, I know we talked about this when there were just 4 of us on the board, but I don't want to mention this again. I'd like to propose that we go to a reoccurring schedule of meeting once every 2 weeks, and that the other week is when we seriously encourage action teams to meet. Because I think in the past we did a good job about the board meeting every single week, but what we didn't do is have any time for action teams to meet. And so for that reason, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the action teams. I think if the board goes down to meeting once every 2 weeks, that'll give us that off week will be when we really need to focus on meeting with our action teams, and that'll give us the margin to do that. That would be my proposal. Any thoughts?
I like it.
I think it sounds great. I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
I think getting me and Eric a little more grouped in on what's going may require a more weekly involvement before we back off to the 2-week thing. Am I making sense?
Yeah, let's make a decision on that after you've gotten the walkthrough from the Google Drive and you've been able to look over those documents, and then hopefully you can. Again, to be clear, we can call an audible at any moment and hop into Slack and be like, "Hey, so and so, can you hop on a call real quick? I want to explain. Can you help me understand this?" That doesn't need to be a broadcasted board meeting. I think for official board meeting business, that's really the point of this. Is we wanted to broadcast these publicly so that we're not, doing things in secret. Other Bitcoin organizations that will remain nameless have been criticized for being secretive and doing corporate deals behind the backs of other people, and then a month later going, "Oh, here's the redacted notes of our minutes, for the meeting." We just don't want to do that. Everything's public. Everything's open. That doesn't mean every single thing that we do has to happen here. So my recommendation would be John's going to do that for the Google Docs. You guys are going to read through the docs. And then at any moment, if you're like, "Hey, guys, I think we need to talk about this," I don't know that necessarily needs to be a board meeting. But even if it does, I'm fine with calling an audible saying, "Hey, can we meet in a few days, or can we meet this afternoon?" I'm fine with that, personally.
Yeah.
I just think as a rigid schedule is better than having no rigid schedule. I think for some of us, it's a little bit kind of burnout every single week to be like, "Oh, man, yeah, I have to set aside this time." And I'm glad we did. It got us to where we are. But I'd rather, as John said, see more focus on the action teams, less focus on, because again, we have the bylaws now, we have the membership levels now, we have the core things that everyone else can build off of that we didn't have before.
Right. Agreed. So are there any other thoughts are there any other objections to moving to a once every 2 week schedule? Okay, if not, then I'd like to say, and while we're just on the call, it'd be great if we could talk for a minute about when would work. Because I know in the past we found that Mondays worked well for us, but James, you said Mondays probably won't work well for you. Is that correct?
Mondays currently do not work well for me.
Okay.
Thursdays at 1 seem to work best. Monday evening, well, but then that conflicts with our meetup. But yeah, no. At this point, Mondays and Tuesdays are just a total no-go.
Okay, and unfortunately, those are the 2 best days for me. I can probably make Thursdays at 1 work. It's just going to be a little tight some weeks. This week, because there's a snow day, I didn't end up going anywhere, so it's fine.
Yeah, I can make Thursday at 1 work.
Okay.
Hopefully, Eric will get a house that has internet by then too. So.
I have an office. I can't come to it.
That's awesome. The fact that you drove to your office in a snowstorm. We'll elaborate a little bit. In a blizzard. No, yeah. I think that's really cool. I really appreciate that, Eric. It was
fun
to see people.
I mean, yeah. I was going to get out of the house regardless and do this. So there you go. I appreciate you making it sound like a sacrifice, but this is good. I enjoyed it.
Nice. All right, cool. So yeah, I think for now, let's just try to meet again in 2 weeks. So not a hard set in stone schedule. It's going to be Thursday at 1 o'clock every 2 weeks. Let's just say, hey, the next meeting is, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I went ahead and put it on the as a recurring event in a Google Calendar just so that we have a tentative time and date.
Okay.
But that doesn't set up the video call. That just adds a
Yep.
sort of reminder of sorts.
And I guess I still do that as a secretary. So I will set up the new document, set up the new event, and so we have that ready to go.
Great.
All right, let's touch real briefly on the action teams, putting those meetings together. So basically, if we got 1 week we're doing board meetings, then the next week is set aside for action teams. I guess if we're going to do that, we need to know who's on what action teams, have an actual list as well as their contact info, so we can actually move forward with that.
Right, and I think that the tour that I'll send you guys of Google Drive will be helpful because we have some of that information in there. So the next thing the next thing we'll talk about then is really we need a couple people on the board to take ownership of a couple different action teams and really run with it, recruit more people to join, and schedule that meeting. And honestly, for an action team that I'm involved with, I'll probably involve with more than one, so I'll probably involve with at least 2 action teams. If we're meeting on the off week, what I may suggest for the action teams I'm involved with is that we meet once a month as an action team and then communicate in Slack in between. And then we would meet each off week would be a different action team. So I mean that's just as far as meeting schedule goes. But yeah, well, I think once I'll send you guys the tour of Google Drive. That'll be helpful because you can see the outline of the action teams we have in there. And right now there's also there's a contact person for each action team. Though if you guys want to, either of you guys want to step forward and serve as an action team leader or an action team co-leader or assistant leader or anything like that, then I'm sure we can find a space for you. We definitely need more leadership there. We have plenty of volunteers. What we really lack in is leadership. Do you think? Well, what I'll say is if after you see that you feel like that doesn't resolve your questions, then we can go ahead and schedule a meeting to talk about just action teams. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Cool. I think we need to encourage each other too. I mean, we have ways to communicate outside of a board meeting. I mean, we can have a lot of this stuff solved, and we can just give an update to the board and say, hey, this issues were go through your your wonder list, whatever it was. These issues were resolved as part of the meeting instead of spending a lot of time in the meeting doing that kind of stuff, and that should help out people's schedules a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think for me personally, it's just a top of mind thing. I've got a lot going on, and so oftentimes the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance is not top of mind. And so, I get a notification once in a while from Slack, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's stuff that's going on. So that's helpful for me. So just even us communicating, and that's something I've been thinking about too. Recruiting more people to Slack itself, the actual chat system, I think would be very helpful for the organization. We've talked about this in the past. Like we want to make that the primary, core place where the organization lives in a sense. We don't have an office. That's where it's going to live. The more people we have in there, and we have different channels for each action group, the more communication going on there, I think the more things will bubble up that we all can help be involved in. So I would just say as an open thing, let's try and recruit people to Slack, get them in there.
Sounds good.
I agree. We should be able to do that with just an email blast, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I think we've done that once. Like John, you said you sent one email already, and I think it did include that. But unfortunately, it's one of those things we have to individually. There's no link we can send them. I think they have to actually ask to be added, and then we have to approve it or something along those lines. Is that correct?
I think so, unless they have an @TennesseeBitcoin.org email address. Yes.
Yeah. So.
I mean, if you're not going to get the open rates on an email that you're sending out to people. We need to have a way for people to give us their cell phone number. We type that cell phone number into a Google Voice account, whatever it is, and you can send out blast text to people with their permission to get things done. Then you at least get the open rates you need and the participation you need. Email just, I don't know how many emails you guys get in a day, but I'm sure that it's a lot.
Yeah, but as far as rates, all open rates, and all that kind of stuff, it really just depends on how you market it. How do you build your reputation, what kind of titles you use, and how sparingly you send out emails. But I think emails.
The point is true that we got to get more people involved. It's probably at this point the organization is small enough that it's going to be one-on-one follow-up. so and so I know is involved, excited. Like, let me actually call him, text him, email him, get a hold of him, and say, hey, can you join Slack and get involved? And like you mentioned, Jake, whoever else wants to get involved, get him in Slack. That'd be my suggestion. It's
Yeah,
still
I like
grassroots in a sense at this point.
What is Eric Johnson doing anything with any of the action teams or anything right now?
I don't know.
Yes, he's involved with the tech development action team a little bit. He's one of the guys that's emailing you back a good bit, Luke, about
Yes, yes.
Is it TTU, the project they're working on?
Yep.
Yeah. We have a tech development action team that's really focused on the kind of projects he's most interested in, actually building something on the blockchain or something that uses the blockchain.
Yeah.
I'll probably see him tonight at the Geek Social if you guys are going to be going. I don't know if ML Rose is going to be open on Charlotte.
Yeah, they said if they're going to be open. I'm not going to be able to go. I've got too much work today.
Yeah, I'm not leaving that. I'm not leaving the house. There's way too much ice. I live in Columbia. There's a lot of ice between here and Nashville.
Now, what's this? You said the Geek Social?
Yeah, the Geek Social is something that Firefly Logic started, and I can email you if you're interested.
Yeah. Yeah, email that over to me.
All right. Guys, I'm actually going to have to go. I've got my team on my other Slack channel is pinging me about stuff I got to take care of. So any other things that we want to discuss real quick while we're here? I mean, again, Slack, to Eric's point, we have many of ways to communicate if you have any other questions or concerns. But anything else we need for this board meeting today?
I'm good for me. We're good.
I'm good.
We're good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Catch you later.